Hello everyone, this is me, Games99, aka No-Brainer, and welcome to the Star Wars Destiny video. Today we're going to spoil some cards from the Seeking the Answers set, and I have a little new subtype to show. Today we are going to be showing off a big villain support who has the subtype of Capital Ship, along with a character and a support that an event that will work with them. So without further ado, let me go ahead and just press the button to reveal them on the card. So TIE Fighter is not a spoiler, but it makes sense. I'm going to show it. I'm going to show this off for everyone. I'm going to say this out loud for everyone who, you know, is listening to this and not watching me, but I need my glasses to actually read these. Okay, so first of all, the big thing here, the Capital Ship that we're going to be spoiling is a 6-cost card called the Imperial class Star Destroyer. Its effects are that the card's cost cannot be decreased. It can be activated, and when you activate the support, you roll 3 TIE Fighter across the galaxy dice into your pool and gain 1 resource. There's no actual dice associated with this card, and that's going to be what it is for a lot of these capital ships, as far as I know. So a capital ship, the design idea of a capital ship is that they have no dice of their own, and they'll roll in a bunch of smaller dice as if they were, you know, carrier ships, right? They're carriers. And then you also get a little bit of a benefit along with that. So in this case, we've got the Imperial class Star Destroyer. The card's cost cannot be, and it's going to give you 1 resource and give you 3 TIE Fighter die. And then, of course, we have the TIE Fighters themselves. The TIE Fighter dice is 1 ranged, plus 2, 2 indirect, 1 disrupt, 1 resource, and a blank. So you're going to get 3 of those, with a maximum damage output of, well, 5 or 6 if you've 6 modifiers, but 5 if you have to go 1 ranged and 2 plus 2s. We also have a character for this, the Lorth Nida, the Incredulous Captain, who has a 2 range, a 2 focus, discard, resource, blank, 9/12 leader for 10 health. So good point cost for the health. And then after you activate the character, you resolve each of this character's character dice if able. Otherwise, remove them. So it's a bit like bit of a Mazzy sort of character here. So you activate the character, you then resolve the dice, and there you go, they're gone. Or you activate the character and you get double blanks, and then you're very sad because you don't get anything, and that's why this is called Double Blanks Gaming, right? That's the set, you know. Get double blanks on Lorth, and very sad, very sad. He also has the power action to search the deck or discard for a capital ship and add it to your hand, and then shuffle the deck if you've, you know, searched the deck. And that is a very interesting power action that works very nicely with the Imperial class Star Destroyer, obviously. And then finally, I'll just go through all these and then I'm going to talk about them individually. Finally, we have Presence, which is a 0-cost event which spots a capital ship to remove a die. 0 cost, remove a die. Neutral. Important note there, neutral. So, first of all, what I'm going to say right now is that I have asked, and I have been told that there will be no other capital ships for Lorth Nida. So this is the only one we're going to get, so we have to analyze him in the context of this being the capital ship he is going to grab, right? So the Imperial class Star Destroyer, how good actually is it? That is an interesting question. So it's got 6 resource. So it costs 6 resources, but you get 1 every time you activate it. So if you're activating this over multiple turns, it's gonna get mad value, right? For the first turn, it's going to be you play it, and then if you activate it on the turn you play it, it costs 5, right? And that's pretty good on its own right there. And it has 3 dice, so you know you can't like just remove the die and then it's gone. Not like a Blizzard, right? Blizzard is you roll in 2 great dice and then they just headstrong them and then you're like, ah. But the card's cost cannot be decreased. That means it's not going to work with... It's not going to synergize with anything that we've been given for Villain Red in terms of like... in terms of ramping for supports, right? You've got the Separatist Ship that reduces the cost by 1 of a card that comes out of the discard. That won't work anyway because it doesn't actually have a dice. You've got the... you got that 0-cost event, which deals 1 where you take an indirect to play a vehicle costing 1 less. Armored Reinforcement, of course. This is a capital ship though, so you can't Armored Reinforcement either. There is no vehicle It's not got a vehicle tag, it's got a capital ship tag, so you can't pilot them either, right? And that is very important there. This is going to be some kind of... I mean, obviously this is a good support card, but this is going to be... This doesn't synergize with anything we've got right now. This is going to be sort of like its own tribal, that's the idea, really. Now, as to actually the value of these dice, I mean, they are TIE Fighter dice, they're not the best dice, right? Assuming... So, with supports, generally speaking, you want to go at least doing damage equal to the cost of the support, right? Now, there were a couple of cards that were very much different to that. Those cards were Mega Blaster Troopers, Vader's Fist. Those guys really broke the mold there. But generally speaking, the cost you pay is what you want to get out of in terms of damage. Right? Like Fang Fighter, right? That cost 3, and it was a 3 ranged damage. The Imperial Class Star Destroyer does technically have that ability with its 3 TIE Fighter dice, but the TIE Fighter dice aren't very good. You can't just like spend a single focus to flip a Fang Fighter to a 3 ranged. This you're gonna have to spend 3 focus to flip to the range that you want, but on the other hand, it is a lot more resistant to dice mitigation. That being said, these days a lot of people run multi-die mitigations, so how resistant that is remains to be seen, because this can actually be headstrong unlike other stuff. Also worth noting that these dice don't count as its own dice, so stuff like fully operational, where is that? Let me just bring that up right now. Fully operational here, boop doop doop, there you go. Fully operational, you activate any number of supports, then you may resolve any number of those support dice. You can't do that with Imperial Class Star Destroyer because it's not technically Imperial Star Destroyer's dice. But yeah, so one of the nice things, however, about this TIE Fighter dice specifically is it does have a resource side on it. So this capital ship could be a support that you play, and then you're able to ramp into other things using this. I mean, obviously, you're not going to get... it's not going to pay itself off, realistic. It's going to take a few turns to pay itself off. On the first turn, you can get a maximum of 4 resources out of this thing, but one of the really strong things about Mega Blaster Troopers was that you had 3 dice, and 2 of those had a resource side on them, so you could roll in the Mega Blaster Trooper dice, and then get 2 resources back and then start ramping up even further, right? So that made Mega Blaster Trooper a very powerful turn 1 play, and it's the exact same thing with this Imperial Class Star Destroyer. Now, Vader's Fist was all damage. It was still a very good card, but if you played it turn 1, you had to kind of get a kill. But, you know, it was just so strong that you was okay with that. But generally speaking, the supports that have resource sides on them, like the Imperial Class Star Destroyer, like Outrider, like Entourage, are the cards that you want to have, you want to play out first. So there's no reason why you can't play this out first and get some very good value out of this. And of course, the sooner you get it out, the better, because it gives you 1 resource every time you activate it. So first turn you play it, it costs 5, and turn it again on the next round, now it costs 4 resources for the TIE Fighter dice. That's actually very good value, because at that point, it's very likely you're going to get 4 damage out of those 3 dice, in comparison to where it was 6. So really, you could see this more as a 4 cost support, but only if you get it out on like turn 1, turn 2. So that is a bit of... I mean, that's a bit of a question mark whether you can or not, but I mean, there are decks out there that are all about like Blizzard 1 as the big thing, you know, you got your Moff Gideons and sort of thing. Moff Gideon, however, doesn't synergize too well with Lorth Nida. Nice little transition there. So Lorth Nida, he has resource size, and he's a 9/12 for 10 health. He's great. He is great at what he's great at. You know, those are good die sides. That's good value. He's good. He's a leader. He's got the leader subtype. That matters for a few things. He can play with crucial intel, although worth noting he himself doesn't have a way of getting rid of a card from your opponent's hand. Crucial intel is, however, a very, very powerful card. Very powerful plot here. that I've been using a little bit lately. And his ability to just roll out and take the resource you get immediately is very, very, very valuable. He's very fast in that respect. But then he's also very interestingly got anti-synergy with his capital ship stuff, because his capital ship stuff is slow, right? You pull it to your hand, like, so a power action of reroll all of your dice is a very good power action. And that is what this is at a minimum. You just pull the capital ship to your hand, throw it out. Worth knowing, you can run 2 Imperial class Star Destroyers, right? These things aren't even unique. You can run 2 of them, you can play both of them. But you can run 2 of them, and because it's from the deck or discard pile, you can throw it out, reroll your dice, and on the next round, pull it back to your hand, throw it out, reroll your dice. It's really good for that, but it's slower, right? It takes 2 turns to do that. It's not just reroll your dice, it takes 2 turns. You've got to pull it back to your hand, then you've got to throw it away. Meanwhile, his actual resolving stuff is very fast, so you could play this guy in a support deck that wants to, as a support for a big character who wants to resolve dice very quickly and claim the battlefield a lot. But then you're not necessarily going to be wanting to use the capital ship stuff. Or you can play it in a slow deck, and then in a slow deck you don't actually care nearly as much about the speed of the resolution here. Like, you don't need to be slow. You don't need to be fast when you're a support deck, and that's one of the strong parts of a support deck, is that they can twiddle their thumbs, wait it out, you know, be like, boop, doop, 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 I'm just going to wait until I've got the perfect time to remove all of my opponent's dice or focus all of my dice, you know, that sort of thing. And speaking of focuses, he's got a double focus side, which is very good, right? A 9-12 with a double focus side is good. I like double focus sides, but because you have to resolve them both, you cannot focus chain this with a single focus side from somewhere else, right? That's one of the great strengths about a double focus side, is that you can turn a single focus from somewhere else, say the mastermind die, into a double focus, and that is not something you're going to get out of this with Lord Nida, because his dice are gone when you played it. His dice disappear. However, there is a way around this, and that is Director, and that's a little fun one. Let me just go Director. Oh my god, my camera is in front of my keyboard. I cannot read this. I cannot. Oh my god, Director. Find the Director. There we go. Okay. Ooh, jeez, not the best place to put my camera. Okay. So, Director is really interesting because after you resolve or remove one of your red dice shown a resource, exhaust the upgrade to roll that die into your pool. So, if you hit a resource side, you can take the resource, then roll it back in with Director. And honestly, this is a good use of Director. You can only do it with one, but you know, it can only be played on a leader. Lothnida is a leader. You roll it, you resolve it, you get it, because this is a good die. That's a 2 range side on a 9-12. What you want out of a support that's 9-12, realistically, is good damage, good resources. He has everything you need. He has everything. The only thing that would make him stronger is if you had disrupt sides on him, and I would hate to see disrupt sides on this guy, because already with the discard sides, he can just turn 1, activate, roll out, hit double discard, resolve them both. Boom. But he definitely has a weakness though with this, with the removing the die if you hit blanks. That really hurts. That really hurts him, especially in the slower decks where you don't necessarily care what you roll because you can just focus them, or with Lord Nida specifically, he gets a free reroll because if you pull in a capital ship, and he can't reroll his own dice. Right, so he has some serious anti-synergy with himself that makes him quite interesting because you can play him in several different ways. He will definitely cause some flips of the table, either because he rolls in and hits 4-gun and kills a guy, hits double discard and kills a guy, hits double blanks and you lose the game off of that. He's definitely swingy. He's definitely swingy. And I love the subtitle of Incredulous for this ability. But he is good. I do like this. I do really like this design. What's interesting though as well is that this whole capital ship thing, the idea is that not necessarily the capital ship is going to be the strongest point, right? You get a blizzard out, you've kind of just won the game. You get a you get an Imperial class Star Destroyer out, you haven't won the game off of that, right? It's not the big red scary thing like Blizzard or Mega Blast Trooper or Vader's Fist. There are a lot of that we were quite afraid of for a lot of the meta there. But the capital ships will have some strong support cards with them, like Presence. Presence is ridiculous. I'm actually kind of concerned about that because what ARH tend to do is they tend to be like, alright, we've got a new mechanic, we want to push it, right? Because we don't want to be like bounty hunters in Convergence, where you release an entire half an archetype and no one ever wants to play it. They noticed their own mistake back in Faltering Allegiances when they did Detect, and it was like half a set for Detect and no one really liked the Detect, so they want to print powerful cards that push the archetype early on and then fill it up later on with other sets. The problem is that some of these pushes might be a bit too strong to really hurt them from trying to print more stuff in the archetype, right? If we're going to do this capital ship tribal, you don't want to necessarily print something so strong you can't afford to print other things in the set, in the thing, and that might be the problem here. Presence on its own, as a good supporting card for capital ships, I think is fine-ish, so long as we keep our capital ships, at that 6 cost, 5 cost range. Because it's a rich get quicker thing. It's going to be kind of dead. It's kind of a dead card in your opening hand, which makes up for its very strong abilities later on. And later on, ramp decks tend to not have that much of a problem with their removal, so it's not that big of a deal. And the sun has gone into a perfect spot that now everything's getting blurred on this side. That is fantastic. Gotta love the sun moving in the 10 minutes of the blinking recording. Anyway, so Presence is very good, but it is quite balanced in that it does need to... You can't do it turn 1. You can afford to have the money, generally speaking, with Presence anyway. And... you have the money to play your big removal pieces anyway, so it's not necessarily... It's value, but it's not necessarily the scariest thing in the world. But... if you start having more Presence-like effects, that could get quite restrictive, and you could find capital ships being played in stuff that isn't necessarily big red supports. But with Imperial class Star Destroyer and Lord Nida, you're looking to try and get out this Star Destroyer turn 1 if you can. You want Lord Nida to roll in, hit a resource side. You need to hit some resource sides, a lot of resource sides if you can. Resource, try and power through that thing on turn 1. But with the support cost can't be decreased, that's going to be a bit tough. You've got... I don't know if we actually have logistics. But we do have... well, no, because even something like Tech Team costs a resource to play. You don't get the money value out turn 1. Yeah, getting this out turn 1 is going to be a bit difficult. Moff Gideon can definitely do it. Characters who have a double resource side, they can definitely do it. Loth Nida does not have that. But, you might be trying to play this guy in a 5-die situation, right? Get 5 dice in there. Maybe even 6 die, right? Character. He's a leader. You can play him with Crucial Intel for 6 die. But notice that some of the things that they have been doing, for example, you've got yourself the new character, right? Where is it? Here. Boop, boop, boop. Yeah, there we go. So you've got Figurin Dan? Is that Dan or no? No, that's a D. Yeah, Figurin Dan. And where's Kendall here? There we go. There's Kendall. So between Figurin and Kendall, look at the fact that those guys have a resource side and then also a +1 resource side, right? You could absolutely play this as a 6-die combo, and this would be a good 6-die combo, right? You've got so many resource sides, you should be able to get out this capital ship. That's going to be pretty good. But the fact is, those are +1 modifier resources. Lord Nida does not work with modified sides. Capital ship, the Imperial class Star Destroyer, it runs TIE Fighter dice. TIE Fighter dice have a +2 range side. You don't have any base sides with this set. With these guys, you don't have any base ranged. You have some resource sides, modify resource sides that you can't resolve with Lorth Nida, and those focus sides on Vigrin don't focus chain Lorth's dice, because Lorth doesn't have dice out into the pool because Lorth uses up his dice as soon as he rolls. That said, this is a 6-die team, and that's pretty good. If there's a 10 cost leader, you could also fit that in. That's a Tarkin, right? That's a 1-die Tarkin. So you could do 2-die Kendall, 2-die Nida, 1-die Tarkin here. Where is Tarkin? Because of Crucial Intel with its team up here. Where is my Tarkin here? Let me just bring him up, and there we go. Nope, let me get rid of presence. It's hiding behind. There we go. Tarkin, a little badly cropped here. Let me just. Boop. Nope. Tarkin does not want to go. Tarkin does not want to get bigger. There we go. Tarkin. There we go. All right. So Tarkin, at 10 with Crucial Intel and that Kendall, is good enough, right? You've got 12, 21, 31, and then Crucial Intel means that each leader, so it's actually 30. So that's actually a really good team there. 5 dice, Crucial Intel can go off because Tarkin's power action is giving you those resources on the Crucial Intel. But again, you can't double focus into double focus. Tarkin's got a focus side, but that's still very good. There's a lot of health. You're looking at 30 health there. 30 health, 5 dice, good amount of resources on it. This is a pretty good team. You don't have access to yellow though, and that can be a problem because we've got some new little cards here. We've got some new cards here in the form that can really hurt this Star Destroyer, right? We've got some new cards that can really hurt this Star Destroyer in the form of cards like Desolate Deed. So Desolate Deed was recently spoiled, and it's not going to be able to kill this Star Destroyer turn 1, definitely not. But after like 3 rounds of removing dice, maybe even 2 if you're lucky, you can blow up this Star Destroyer. But because it has to be based on the support's cost, that's where the Star Destroyer's got a potential advantage here. The Star Destroyer itself doesn't win you games, so it's not the main threat for Desolate Deed compared to something else. We can't play Mega Blasters anymore. I keep bringing up Mega Blasters, it's no longer in the set. Something like Blizzard, right? You want to hit a Blizzard with Desolate Deed, not the Imperial Class Star Destroyer. The Imperial Class Star Destroyer, after the first activation, I mean, this costs 6. You activate it, costs 5. You activate it again, it costs 4. It's gonna be cheaper than what it costs realistically here, right? It gets you its money back, and so Desolate Deeds having to get up to 6 isn't such a problem for the Imperial Class Star Destroyer because it's getting you some value. That said, if it's round 3, you still haven't got your Class Star Destroyer out, your opponent's sitting there with Desolate Deed, it's got all the resources on it, you can't play it out. You need to get this out before your opponent gets his Desolate Deed going. There is, however, another scary one in the form of the Nikto Sand Riders. If I just, there we go, pull that out. So Nikto Sand Riders says after you activate the support, you may exhaust an opponent's support unless that opponent gives you a resource. So you're taking the resources that the Imperial Class Star Destroyer is giving you, right? You can absolutely afford to pay them because you get the Star Destroyer back. The Star Destroyer gives you that money back, but you are losing. Your opponent's gaining the money that you would be gaining out of this. And that scares me. Fortunately, they're both villain yellow, so you're not going to see them in every game that exists. And Desperate Measures is gone, right? So that Desperate Measures being gone is a really big deal for getting us to get these big supports out again. But it is still scary, the Nikto Sand Riders. But if you've got a ramp deck, you're playing cards like Presence, which costs 0. Your Imperial Class Star Destroyer is ramping you up. Late game, you should have no trouble at all paying this. It's just in the earlier game, if you play Star Destroyer and they play Nikto on the same turn, you might have some issues there. Of course, you could be playing this stuff on yourself, right? Nikto Sand Riders is perfectly fine to have in a rampy kind of deck. Like, you can play it with the Star Destroyer. You just need another you just need to play a yellow character, and that might be difficult. That might be difficult to find a good yellow character, but there are some out there. Are there any leaders? Are there any yellow leader characters? I really haven't set this up. Let me just check here. So, what yellow leaders do we have access to here? Let me. I really hate that I put my keyboard behind my camera, because then it just looks awkward for you guys. Yeah, so we have Zero, we have Grief, Karga. Those guys are leaders. They cost 11 and 12. They cost 9 and then 11 and 12 respectively, so they could be done there instead of the Kendall. Give you access to that yellow inside a crucial crucial intel matchup. I mean, you've also got some of the cheap stuff like the Death Watch, Tobias Beckett. He got reprinted. Tobias Beckett is a very interesting one for this, actually. Let me bring up Tobias Beckett here. Let me bring this up onto your screens. Oh, he's already there. Great. So Tobias gives each player a resource as his power action, and he takes resources from an opponent with his special. So he could actually be a pretty decent pairing with Lothnida, because those guys, because he helps you ramp. Even though he doesn't have his special isn't. His special is basically just a resource, and he has a 3-for-1 cost on his ranged, but that could actually work well with the Imperial, with the fighters, the TIE fighters, and he is a leader as well. That said, 28 points that is, and 28 points might get you. It could get you extra firepower as a plot, but extra firepower's got a problem there. So extra firepower is you can resolve 2 dice, increasing each of their values by 1. Tobias Beckett, of course, can't increase the value of a special. Lothnida, he removes his dice as soon as they're rolled in, so you can't use extra firepower with him either. So you do have that problem there. I mean, just a problem in general as well, is that you can't help but compare Loth with Tarkin, right? Loth and Tarkin both have a double focus and a single discard side. Loth has the extra resource side, whereas Tarkin's got a 3-for-1 indirect, and then Loth's got that 2 range, whereas Tarkin's 2 indirect. So Loth is a little bit better in terms of pure dice value, but Tarkin has an extra hit point, and his power action is really good because it lets you just plan out the entire turn. Lothnida's power action is crucial for the capital ship archetype. Loth costs 1 less than Tarkin, but very strangely, if you're going for a big little team, they're all 17 pointers and 19 pointers. None of them, there isn't a character for villain yet that costs 18 points elite in the set. So Lothnida, trying to match up with someone like that's not working out too well. You could play him with crucial intel, 17 points, there you go, with a non-leader, like, but Tarkin gives you those crucial intel points. Lothnida, you're looking at like just getting a lucky probe, so it's not that fantastic. There, 14-point Tarkin versus 13-point Lothnida with the crucial intel plots, not looking great for Lothnida there. And Tarkin is really good. I mean, he doesn't have that direct damage, but if you get into a situation where it's just Tarkin versus one opponent, you've both lost your bigs and it's just small versus small, Tarkin's 3-for-1 indirect becomes really, really valuable at that point. So you do have to compare those, and the comparison isn't looking fantastic for Lothnida. That said, of course, Lothnida's fast, and speed can matter a lot, especially if you're playing Lothnida and there's going to be like another bounty hunter for 18 perhaps. You could play him with Cad Bane perhaps, although you can play Cad Bane with Tarkin as well, but Cad Bane with Lothnida can definitely be a very fast deck that could get you first claim on Jabba's Palace. Jabba's Palace gives you a resource and removes an opponent's resource, and then that could let you set up for the next turn playing the Imperial class Star Destroyer. Right, Cad Bane with the Star Destroyer behind him is pretty brutal there, right? Because maybe all you need is the speed for the first round, and the claim to get a resource could be enough. Is he going to win the roll-offs? Not necessarily, but he will always win the roll-off against one of the what I think might be one of the key like cards against this guy, which you do see quite often, but not necessarily because people want to play it, and that is Disable. So Disable is a nice little 0 cost, exhaust a support. Cost 0, exhaust the support, boom, it's gone for a turn, your 6 cost card is just gone. Disable isn't a card people can put in their decks normally, but they can with Extremist Campaign, and we're seeing a lot of Extremist Campaign with Vizsla. Vizsla Extremist Campaign Hondo, especially. You're also seeing it with the Deathwatch Mandalorian Aura, and then like Greedo. That's also a thing. That's also a deck that exists. So like, Disable is a card that will crop up more times than you'd expect, and that can be killing for this Imperial class Star Destroyer. And of course, Villain Yellow, they have access to all these other things. They can exhaust the support and then set up for their riders, or set up for the oh god, what's the Desolate Deed? There we go. They set up for Desolate Deed as well. That could be a problem. And this is crucial because it's exhaust, right? Because we do have Deflector Shield. Deflector Shield it's a mod that hasn't seen much play because we haven't had any great vehicles to use it with. And Blizzard is kind of one of those things where you just play it at the end of a turn after your opponents run out of money, and then you just kill them with it, right? You can't play never mind, you cannot play Deflector Shield with the Imperial class Star Destroyer. Not a vehicle. Ignore me. Ignore me completely. Can't play Deflector Shield with the Imperial class Star Destroyer. My bad. And that is actually a problem because that also means we can't play Path Engine. Path Engine was one of the really good cards against those Sound Riders. It's one of those really good cards against Disable. And it would allow you to... It gets rid of the exhaust, right? If your opponent exhausts it, you would get it back. Can't play it with the Imperial class Star Destroyer. Imperial class Star Destroyer is not a vehicle. And this is showing why it's not a vehicle. Because there's all these little things that you've got to think about. A lot of this game, a lot of the game really since Legacies for supports has been vehicles. So it's interesting to see an archetype that itself isn't a vehicle. Of course, I could see a world in which there aren't very many capital ships. They might not print very many capital ships at all in future sets. This might even be like pretty much what we get for a while. But we'll see, because this I like the idea of a capital ship that you play it acts as a carrier, it's got multiple small dice, and then you activate it, and it gives you money to build up for more stuff, right? That's a real carrier scenario, right? A capital ship being a ramp is very interesting to me, and I really like that idea. But I mean, there's so much stuff that could come in if these decks get on top. There's so much stuff that could get in that would really hurt this deck a lot. Slice Terminal, right? You pay 6, your opponent says no, you're not playing that card, and you can't play. And if someone Slice Terminal something else, you can't play the Imperial class Star Destroyer for free because its cost can't be decreased, right? The cost can't be decreased on Imperial class Star Destroyer, can't be decreased on Blizzard 1, so Slice Terminal works really well against those characters. And then you've got stuff like, well, okay, Systems Malfunction, it's not a vehicle, Systems Malfunction is fine, you don't have to worry about that. Again, not a vehicle, Trash the Treasure, it's fine. Look at all these stuff. All this stuff that I had planned as like counters the Imperial class Star Destroyer, and half of them don't work because it's not a vehicle. So that's nice at least. But there is one very powerful card. And so a lot of people were saying, well, there was someone in the Discord at least that was saying, oh, I hope Blue gets some like really good anti-support cards, right? This is You Will Go to the Dagobah Bar system. This isn't what I wanted. I wanted Move Along. Move along. Move along. There we go. Move along. Come on. I don't know why You Will Go to the Dagobah system was there. There we go. Move along. So, Move Along, it says, slot a blue character 17 or more points to exhaust a non-unique card or remove a non-unique die. Imperial class Star Destroyer, non-unique. This is a card from Redemption that could be really crippling to the Imperial class Star Destroyer. We could see a lot of blue decks, blue hero decks running this, if we get some good blue hero stuff. I mean, we've got Ray as a new spoiler card, who is a 14/18, so Move Along could be played with her, give you some time against the Star Destroyer, because if the Star Destroyer gets played and then it gets exhausted, that's a real feel bad, because you need to be activating the Star Destroyer every turn, because it is at the minimum of resource and 3 dice. It is so valuable to be activating every turn, and if they spend all of their money on Imperial, I mean, this is why Desperate Measures was so broken, right? You spend all of your turn getting out an Imperial class Star Destroyer, and they DM you kind of lost. Back in the day, you would pay 4, get out your Mega Blaster Troopers. Mega Blaster Troopers was then going to help you ramp into other things, and no, they blow it up with the and that was a problem. So Move Along is, I mean, it costs a resource though, right? That's the thing with Move Along. You don't have any Disrupt size on Lord Leader, but Move Along, at least you've got some play around Move Along, because because if they have the resource, if they don't have the resource, you can play it with no worries, unlike Disable. Also worth noting that Palpatine, you can't reduce the costs. We have the new Palpatine. New Palpatine wants to play with some really cool new red supports. Can't play with this guy. Cost cannot be decreased. You can play other stuff though. If this is going to be like a key card in a ramp deck potentially, then you can play other stuff, but Palpatine can't be played with this. But he has a 2 resource side, so he can be played with this, right? You just can't play the special side. But his resource side is very solid. A 2 resource side to try and get this thing out is very solid, because at 19 points you roll him out, you hit the 2 resources, resolve them, you have 6 money, play it, right? And one of the nice things about the Imperial class Star Destroyer as well is that for a lot of decks it's like, oh no, I need to hold back my money to play my Headstrongs and my Command and stuff like that. But with the Imperial class Star Destroyer, you can play it, turn it, get the money back, and then you can play a bit of removal with that. Worth noting as well, if someone ever manages to do this, Raise would be a nightmare, because it costs 3 and removes your opponent's Imperial class Star Destroyer. If we end up in an Imperial class Star Destroyer meta where it's capital ship versus capital ship decks, Raise is going to see some play, and that's going to be weird. That this card that's seemingly terrible might actually genuinely see some play for 3. Because at 3, you don't mind it playing it if you're already in a rich deck. Raise was one of those cards that was rich get richer decks. Yeah. There's also one last little card here. The, what is the Interdiction Field? Yes, no. There's 2 more cards. Interdiction Field is one of them. Interdiction Field, same thing with Disable, right? You have to exhaust your own support, but you exhaust the same number of opponent supports, so they can exhaust your Imperial class Star Destroyer, and that will be very, very sad. You know, there's so many random little silver bullets that aren't quite too niche, so that you could play them with against the Imperial class Star Destroyer, and that could be a problem for you. Like I said, Infinite players are going to love this card. Because you play Imperial class Star Destroyer in Infinite, oh, that's going to be beautiful with attack formation. Because you can, if you play both of them, that's 6 TIE Fighter dice out there. Then you play 4 TIE Fighters. Oh, 10 TIE Fighter dice. Your attack formation is going to shoot someone for 11. It's going to be brilliant. So Infinite players, I think, are going to really enjoy this Imperial class Star Destroyer card. Until they get Desperate Measured. Because Desperate Measures is still going to be a thing in Infinite. It's going to be sad. Yeah. Well, that's all I got today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. This has been me, GameSlayer99, aka No Brainer. Thank you for watching. I messed up the outro. Let me try that again. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been me, GameSlayer99, aka No Brainer. No, that's the bad part. I said thank you guys so much for watching. Then I say thank you guys for watching immediately. I'm ending the video. This has been me, GameSlayer99, aka No Brainer. Thank you for watching. Signing out.